What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Throw Big, Throw Far podcast. This is Coach Joe Frontier. As always, thank you so much for listening, or in this case, watching. So many of you have reached out and asked, hey, could you put the podcast or old podcasts on YouTube? I'm going to see what I can do. I have so many balls in the air at all times, and it's just me here at Throw Big, Throw Far and Thrower X, my partners Scott and Ryan, and we're juggling so many balls, but I will do my best. So we're going to start with these Olympic recaps and the very special guests that I've been able to chat with about these incredible Paris Olympic Games. And I'll see if I can continue to add old episodes and maybe new episodes of the Throw Big, Throw Far podcast onto this YouTube channel. If you want to listen to all 200, and I'm not sure how many episodes of the Throw Big, Throw Far podcast and the greatest throwers and coaches from all around the world that I've collected over the last 7 years, please go check out the Throw Big, Throw Far podcast on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, and enjoy these stories and insights and training tips and technical analysis and all the things conversationally that I've been able to talk with all these amazing people. This show is an absolute labor of love, and my mission here is to promote this sport that I'm crazy about, inform people, and hopefully get people more excited about the throwing events. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. So I hope you enjoy this and everything that follows. Thanks everybody for watching and or listening. Take care. Until then, throw big, throw far. This is the Throw Big, Throw Far podcast, brought to you by Thrower X, for throwers and coaches who want to get better. Thrower X, own your throw. Dan McQuaid, it is an honor to have you back, and we just saw greatness, man. How you feeling?
I think I need a shower. That was that was crazy. And the way that, when the rain came, the way it shoved the competition in different ways, and holy cow, it was just insane. Insane.
We've got lots to talk about as we recap this men's shot put that just happened. So many storylines. Obviously, the biggest going in, I believe, was the fact that, Ryan Crouser battled injuries all season long. And after we saw him throw in the US Olympic trials, we thought he must be feeling pretty good. Kovacs, after the Olympic trials, said, I should have beat him by a meter. I'm disappointed in my own performance. He's been injured. I got no right letting him beat me today. And it was in really good spirits, right?
Yeah.
Disappointed in himself. And so you go into this meet, and right before the Olympics, we saw Fabbri beat both of these guys, beat the field in the Diamond League in London a week and a half ago. And you go in and thinking this could be an upset, or Crouser throws well, but Fabbri throws better. Was Kovacs putting all the things in one line, saying, this is the competition with the circle around it. I'm going to perform my best here. I'm going to take down Crouser. So many things going into this. Dan, what was your first kind of initial reaction to what you just saw?
I think, working on the two books with Justin Hofsteinson about Daniel Stoll, we talked extensively about Daniel and about Gerd Kanter's career. And there's something about being the favorite that's not easy, right? Like in Daniel's career, his first big breakthrough performance was 2017 World Championships. He threw 69 meters, got second. But he wasn't, and he was for sure one of the contenders, but he didn't have a target on his back, But then 2019, 2021 Olympics, he did not throw 69 meters, at least in part because he felt the burden of being the front runner. And I think we saw some of that today. You and I love Leonardo Fabbri, one of the nicest guys in the world, an incredible young talent. We've seen him throw over 2250, like half a dozen different meets this year, something like that.
Yes.
And then, he gets that foul early in qualification. That kind of seemed to throw him off. And then he got through it. And all those old war horses say, okay, you just get through qualification and then you can do a reset, right? But then he kind of rushed his first throw, got an early foul, got a big one, right?
It
That was
was
that was
huge.
a silver
Uh,
medal throw, right?
That
For
was
sure.
at least a silver medal throw in round one that he fouled the same kind of heel foul that he was struggling with in qualifying. And so,
Yeah.
um,
So that was his first throw.
yes,
Okay, so then I think he rushed his second one. I had that out of order, but yeah, either way, it's a repeat of the qualification nightmare all of a sudden. And again, I think last year we saw how free and loose Leo was, and how he just had a great time and blasted his first 22-meter throw ever, fouled a one right on at 23. But I think Rajindra Campbell was this year's Leo in that. I don't know about you, but I wasn't expecting him to contend for a medal.
he looked so good early in the season and had been very, very quiet relative to kind of the fireworks of him saying, "Hey, I'm a contender too," at least by his distances early on, and then pretty quiet May, June, and I was not expecting him to go 22 meters, and not only did he go 22 meters, but he went 22 meters multiple times, and I think his last throw that was a foul was a little better than that.
Yeah. And you and I did that thorough preview podcast with Darrell Hill, and I don't think any of us brought him up. I don't remember his name coming up.
He was mentioned, but we certainly weren't talking about him being in the mix as
Yeah.
a real medal threat to who we thought going in was ready to perform at that level. And so kudos to him for finding a way to lay down his best, literally his best performance and best series, probably even despite the rain.
Yeah. And I think that what I was saying about, what the struggles Daniel had and what we maybe saw Leo struggle with today, I think that just accentuates the greatness of Crouser and Joe, because how many times have they gone into a huge meet with those huge expectations and come through? And today, as we go through the competition, we'll talk about it, how Joe did that. Um, Man, that's not easy because those expectations can be a piano on the back. And again, I think that's what we saw with Leo. So I think we'll see a different Leo at the Worlds and going forward. But it was hard to watch. With him being such a great guy, it was hard to watch. We know his Paulo, his coach, great guy. It's just was hard to watch. But it's sports, right? It's sports. These things happen to even really good people.
I want to start at the top and then we could go through this round by round, but what I'm so impressed with Crouser is, and we've talked about it before on this podcast, he doesn't have to try hard to throw far.
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice, a lot of these guys had to try extremely hard to try to produce throws that could even get on the medal stand, let alone get close to 2290.
For sure.
And, we've talked about, you got to raise your crap level. Crouser's crap level is so high that on a nearly static start round one, he would have won the competition.
His
And
crap level is 2250, right?
yeah, he went 2264 in round one and he looked comfortable and it looked so easy.
Yeah.
And everybody else looked like, if I don't go at 101%, I hate the idea of like, oh, I gave it 110%. You can't give more than 100%, but everyone else is going at 100%.
Yes.
To try to hang with Crouser. And Crouser can go slow in all positions and make it go really far. And when he tries to go 100%, it goes extremely far, especially if it all lines up. So I think the first thing is I'm just so impressed with Crouser in terms of, hey, even on a day where he didn't get three, basically for all intent and purposes, he only took three throws today.
Yeah.
Round four and round five, because of the rain, are almost completely wiped out for everybody. And then Crouser opted not to take round six out of safety. And I think that was a great move. He had the thing
Wisely.
wrapped
Yeah.
up and he's been injured all year. And good move on his part. I actually was surprised he took his sixth round throw at the Olympic trials after the pec tear and the
Me
elbow.
too.
And it was an unnecessary throw. And so maybe he's getting wiser. His beard's getting longer, so he must be wiser.
Do you think his celebration after his round one was letting the other guys know, not today, boys? I just threw it in a super easy throw, 2260. It's me. Forget about everything you heard about injuries. I'm the same guy. Good luck to all of you.
I think it's possible. I think we're old enough to remember when Tiger Woods kind of burst onto the golf scene.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that there were tournaments that he was playing at such a level that he won before he even started because everyone knew that that guy's just better than me.
Yeah,
And I
right.
think, unfortunately, many guys in this field just know that he's better than. I'm not saying everyone. I think there's guys in this field who fully believe that on their good days they can beat Ryan Crouser.
Hmm.
But I was talking with a few of my throwers, like qualifying, like, oh, what's it mean? Fabbri threw farther. It's like, well, all you're trying to do is qualify, and sometimes if you qualify in the first throw, and that throws farther than the qualifying mark, you don't really know what he had in him. And he was trying to throw 2150. And so
Yeah.
he qualified, and then so you don't know. But when you put your stamp on something on first round of the finals, and it looks something like 2264, celebration, no celebration, I think 95% of the field knew that it was over already. And that's a crazy world to be living in. Ryan Crouser becomes the first three-time gold medalist in the shot put. If we go way back in time, Perry O'Brien went gold, gold, silver. And we're talking about two American shot putters. There's a through line there. We're talking about someone, Perry O'Brien, who was the first guy to kind of turn his back instead of the side shuffle, turned his back and was a glider, and really changed what shot put really would become over the subsequent 60 years, 70 years since Perry O'Brien. And now you got another guy who's just absolutely changed it. We have no world gliders in the field anymore. And Ryan Crouser has stamped his name and distances on history of shot put. And all the other stuff that we're going to talk about, I think, is subservient to that hyperbole.
Yeah. Yeah. Hail to the king. I mean, what can you say? What can you say? And I think that is one of the things that got Leo off track is after the season he had, after his performance at the Worlds last year, he had to be thinking, okay, if I have a great day, I can take this guy down. This is my year. And then it just adds that pressure, it adds that pressure and you get that foul and
How many times have
God,
we talked about, you and I, besides being high school coaches, but on this podcast about the best of the best in the world? If you follow the first throw, it so often can just absolutely change the rest of the competition.
yep, yep,
Now when they got five throws, I'm thinking differently about throw number two than I was throw number one. And then really throw out round 4 and 5 because of the rain. And that
yep.
first round foul that might have put him on the podium and might have put pressure on Crouser if it was a little bit better than 2264. Maybe Crouser's approach is different, but Crouser didn't have to feel that pressure, never did, because it was a foul. And all of a sudden, the day completely changes for Leo.
Yeah. Deanna Price went through that last year at Worlds. She opened with two into the cage and she climbed her way back to the podium, but competition wasn't the same. She wasn't swinging for the fences, right? She had to regroup and get back in the competition. And yeah, gosh. And so, I mean, that just makes Krauser again look more like a genius because, he has developed that whole approach of getting a really solid throw in with very little risk in the first round. And then it's on. And man, I just don't know what to say.
Let's
He's
go through
amazing.
this round by round a little bit. And if it takes us on tangents, great. We've talked a lot about round one, but what I was most impressed with, besides Krauser's throw, was really Payton Otterdahl.
Yeah.
2169, and he looked so comfortable doing it. And we'll get into it, but each round 2 and 3 got better. 2198, 2201 in round 3. And unfortunately, I think Payton suffers two problems today. Is one, the rain. I think he was on the trajectory to climb another notch on the ladder. Maybe not every throw, fourth, fifth, and sixth, getting better and better and better. But I think those three throws line him up to have another big throw in round 4 or 5.
Absolutely.
And the rain changes that. And then the other thing that derailed Payton Otterdahl is Rajindra Campbell. And Joe Kovacs, and I'm sure we will get to Joe Kovacs when we get to round 6.
Yeah, well, full respect to Payton Otterdahl. What a fantastic competition. And, you know, it's just not easy, not an easy way to make a living because, like you said, he's doing everything right. He was kind of like Leo was in Budapest, right? Where you throw enough 22s, you never know when you're going to catch a 2290 or something. Then the rain comes and just bollocks everything up. And God only knows, they were showing bits of the conversations that were going on, and God only knows whether or not those officials had any understanding of what the rain was doing to the ring. We've seen before that throwers prefer it if it's really going to rain to just let it rain and let the ring fill up, right? So they have a little better traction. I guess it probably depends on the ring. That one sure looked slick, didn't it? Once it got a little wet.
Well, Darrell Hill on our previews was very eloquent in saying, I'd rather have a dry circle or let it fill up. But
Yes.
one, intermittent rain, terrible. And then two, I think having the circumstances change during the meet is the worst.
Yeah, because you're not taking more warm-up throws, right?
Give me a wet circle that I can warm up in and figure out how can I do this. And then it's an even playing field. But if you're in the lead, I mean, I think probably the happiest guy in the field was Rajindra Campbell, who had a big throw out there in round 3, and then all of a sudden, or round 2, sorry, as soon as it started raining, I mean, the whole thing gets really skewed in a different direction.
Did you notice if anybody changed shoes? I was trying to look like Joe kept his shoes on. I don't know.
The biggest thing that I saw was in round 6. Leo, I think he might have changed shoes, but not only did he change shoes, but it looked like he wrapped the balls of his feet in tape on both feet.
That's what I
on
thought.
Shoes.
It was like purple tape, huh?
Round 6, I think they were different shoes, and I think he added tape, or so they might have been the same shoes and just added tape.
Yeah.
I had a former coach, friend of mine, message me during, is like, all these guys should put socks over their shoes to give you some traction. And I have seen people do that before. I mean, it's just an impossible situation to not, because you do that. Let's say you do that to see if that works, but then you've wasted a round if it doesn't work.
Right. That's the thing.
There's no warm up. There's no warm ups to try to recalibrate. They finally go in the circle, and we're not going round by round because Dan and I are just going off the cuff. Everybody who's listening,
too much adrenaline.
Dan and I are just going to go where we go. Sorry. They finally everyone kind of converged on the circle. And it looks like they squeegeed it out, and round 6 was a little bit cleaner in terms of people getting off some half decent throws. And certainly Joe Kovacs was proof to that. But could they have converged and tried to do that in between each, after each 8th throw? So after Crouser goes, do it again before round 5. After Crouser goes, I don't think it's fair to do it in between each thrower, or every few throwers, because it obviously builds up. But, you almost saw Crouser talking about, it's like the first part of the rain brings kind of everything out that has been beat into the surface of the concrete, the rubber and, oil or whatever's, around.
Right.
And it just comes to the surface. And so that's the hardest time. And that was round 4 and 5. And
treacherous.
then and it just looked like those guys, and kudos to Chuck Onekwichi, one, for making the final and finishing 6th at the Olympic Games. Congratulations, Chuck. But he really took one. I mean, many guys slipped, but he went down hard. He popped up, showed everyone he was okay. But that changes your psyche too. Like Chuck going into the next round, there's no way like, oh yeah, I'm going to be just as aggressive. I almost died and broke my leg. That wasn't going to happen after he fell. I mean, had he done that after slipping, I would have been absolutely shocked. It would have been the performance of the year.
I messaged back and forth with Paulo Del Solio a little bit a couple weeks ago to check in on Zane, who we also love. And, he had sprained his ankle a couple months ago. And he said Zane is training really well, but he hasn't been able to get back to the point of competition yet where he can trust his ankle. And I think that you saw that. And then when it rained, everybody was put in that situation, right? Where you get in there and it's just doubt. And do you hit the accelerator? Do you, I mean, and you see Chuck go down like they're like, oh my God.
Yeah, not only does it change Chuck's next round, but it changes everybody's next round who just saw it happen.
At what point do you think they would stop that? Like, do you remember the 2016 Olympics women's disc qualification?
Yeah, they
It was
stopped.
raining. Yeah, Sandra threw 2 into the cage. It was clear that nobody was going to be able to function. And I'm yelling at the TV going, you're going to let the defending champion and the favorite for this one, you're going to let her throw 3 into the cage because you're too stupid to delay the competition. And then they did. And I was wondering the same thing. Like when Chuck went down, I'm like, okay, come on. Isn't it time to just take a break here and do what's best for the health of the athletes for the competition? But after you saw that, oh my, what happens? I mean, does someone have to blow out a knee before they would delay it? I don't know. I wonder what the rule is on that.
I can't imagine that it's just, the judge sitting next to the shot put circles job to decide to pause the Olympic shot put final during the final.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they probably knew rain was in the forecast, and I'm sure they discussed it as a venue, right? As whoever the head officials but where they leave that, I'm sure that story will come out, and who makes the ultimate decision to say pause or suspend or delay or squeegee every round, or it looked like really the first guy who I really saw hesitation in the ring was Payton Otterdahl. I don't know if you noticed that, but he was in the ring with a shot put at his neck, ready to start, and he started talking with the official while the ball was still at his neck. And I'm shocked he didn't take the ball out of his neck and restart. But they exchanged the thing. There's another exchange, and then he threw, and he much slower than he had in the previous rounds and looked very cautious. At what point do you say, we got to make some decisions here that,
it's a problem with the sport of throwing, because when you have a rubber track, and folks wearing spikes, I don't think that rain I was never a sprinter, but I don't think that probably bothered them. Certainly wouldn't bother distance runners. Right. And so if most of the officials in the sport and people in charge of it, if that's their experience, maybe they don't worry about it. It reminds me a little bit of Tokyo with the runway, right? The javelin runway.
Yes.
They laid down this track to create world records. They figured, oh hell, javelin runway, same thing. We just use the same stuff. Turns out in the heat it disintegrates. And nobody cared enough to not do that. And I suspect those things, watching something like this, I suspect the same thing, that there's nobody, whoever the decider is, it's like whoever the decider was in the women's shot put. It was a year ago, right? Where they kept making them wait the full
U.S. trials, where they made it was terrible.
And you're just like, okay, the decider here has never seen a shot put competition in their life, and yet somehow they're the decider. And it makes me wonder if that's the case even here in the Olympics, right? You would think if it was you or me or Fiestin or somebody who loved the sport, that they would say, okay, someone is going to get badly injured, and this is not really a competition anymore.
Well, and you saw the athletes finally kind of descend and talk to them before round 6, which was not too little too late for one Mr. Joe Kovacs. But, like I said before, I think 4th and 5th rounds were a loss. They were inconsequential to the results, that no one really could muster much of anything. I want to talk about round 2. 3 consequential things happen. 1, Otterdahl continues to get better and is in second at 21.98. Crouser improves to 22.69. So those things are wrote, right? Rajindra Campbell, 22.15 was the thing that we were not expecting. We already talked a little bit about that. And I just looked up his statistics while we were chatting about the rain a little bit. Earlier in the season, he went 22.16, but that was in February. And he hadn't gone over 22 meters since that meet. His next best performance was 21:54. And so just a remarkable having it and moxie on the day you needed it the most.
Yeah, good for you.
Absolutely impressed with that performance. The other thing that stood out in round 2 is that Tom Walsh suffered an injury during this throw. And obviously Tom Walsh is a good friend of our shows, and Tom Walsh is a good friend. And he is the consummate pro. He has been in the mix at every world championships and Olympics going back to 16 and earlier, multiple world indoor champion. And to see someone who, hey, let's be honest, Tom didn't have the season he wanted to have this year. But to see him come up with an injury in round 2, and he tried to put it back together in round 3, but you could tell it was not going to happen. And Tom didn't make the final 8. And so shout out to Tom. And I hope that 1, he's okay. And 2, I hope that we see lots more of Tom, because 1, he is a blast. My son and I were watching qualifying, and he's messing with Payton Otterdahl in the background on camera during qualifying. He's just got this joie de vivre, we'll say, because since it's the Olympics are in Paris, he just has this happiness and joy that he brings to competitions. And not only is he one of the best, but he's a great guy. So I'm hoping Tom recovers, and that we see him in the mix in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting. Father Time came for him, and you had to wonder with the big 3, with Joe and Ryan and Tom, if and when that was going to happen to one of them. And now he's the first one, right, where he just blew a tire at just the wrong time. But those guys put a lot of stress on their bodies. Can you imagine all the lifting, all the throwing? And it's going to happen eventually. And I don't know. But I'm with you. I hope Tom recovers and goes out on his own terms, because he's been one of history's great shot putters.
Round 3, Payton Otterdahl pushes his mark out to 22:01. And this is obviously after Rajindra had passed him. And so he is in third going into the finals, and looking like he's just getting one throw better. He looked super comfortable. I think we'll probably talk more about this as we move out of this season. But let's be honest, if you throw Ryan Crouser out and Joe Kovacs out, it's Leo Fabbri and Payton Otterdahl having the best season in 2024 of all the shot putters on the planet Earth. And maybe Jordan Geist is in that mix too, but Payton had been consistent, had tons of meets over 22 meters. And before the rain, I just thought, man, he's going to medal. Like, I just felt like he was just taking his stepping stone up, and where he would have gotten finished at, I don't know. But, fourth is a really hard place to finish at the Olympics. But he was sitting pretty before it started raining. Well, sitting pretty is not fair with some of the guys in this field. With Kovacs and Fabbri looking, he wasn't sitting pretty, but he looked like his arrow was pointed in the absolute perfect direction.
And it's a tough sport because your window can be pretty small. Crouser is an outlier. Joe is an outlier. But your window can be small, Look at the season that Leo had and the season that Otterdahl had. And at least in Otterdahl's case, there's no guarantee from year to year you're going to get back to the Worlds or the Olympics, right? You got to run the gauntlet. Leo's got a good chance of, getting back regularly, even if he tails off a little bit. But who knows, right? Maybe he has an injury, and he's, right when he seems to be at his peak right now, things go off the rails. It is a tough sport, man. I don't know. My heart goes out to both those guys.
Payton qualified obviously for the last Olympic Games and made it to the final, but got finished 10th. And so see him moving up in a crowded field, and obviously with the 2 best throwers in world history, both throwing, as his countrymen. It's great to see him in 4th. But again, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow for Payton, and I hope that it only motivates him to continue and move forward, because he is a fantastic talent and he's got lots of years ahead of him.
I hope so. I hope he does. I mean, he sure seems to, and you hope the track and field gods are kinder to him in the next couple of years. Because, I mean, gosh, he and Leo, they got to be thinking, when that rain started coming down, they got to be thinking, oh, come on, like Crouser needs help.
Right.
And,
yeah. It just, and it's not that Crouser needs help, but it shows, hey, when your crap level is so high that you can static start 2264 in round 1.
Yeah.
There you have it.
It accentuates his awesomeness. It
really does.
wow. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Round 5, Fabbri falls, Chuck falls. And this is where everyone's got this kind of questioning look on their face, like, what the hell are we doing out here?
Yeah.
Chuck's fall looked really bad, and I was really happy to see him pop up and like, I'm fine. He did the sign of the cross, and thank goodness he's not injured. But then you see the kind of converge on the ring, all the throwers, and they finally got some squeegees out, and it looked at least to me, it looked like it was still raining, but they had gotten maybe that initial, I talked about it before, maybe what Crouser was talking about, the first gunk that comes out of the concrete, that was kind of removed. And now you just got a wet surface rather than maybe a wet and slippery from whatever residue exists that comes out of the ground in the first rain. And so moving into the 6th round, I literally thought, nothing's going to change. This is going to be kind of
anticlimactic.
Yeah, anticlimactic, and we're going to go through the motions here because that's what you do. But little did I know that Joe Kovacs decided that he wanted to continue a streak of medals in global competitions. Dan, what do you think of Joe Kovacs?
It's his greatest moment, and he's had some great moments. You know, we're not forgetting Doha in 2019, but to come up under those conditions. And does anyone rely on speed more than Joe? Joe's not going to walk through the ring and throw 2260 like Ryan can. He's got a haul butt. So the conditions in that circle were different 3 rounds in a row, 4 rounds in a row, probably, right?
Yeah.
You can't go in and do an imitation. You can't take a warm-up throw. You've got to just say, okay, if I'm going to medal, I got to find it right now, and I got to find just the exact right amount of speed. Because 1 mile an hour too much, I'm spinning out of that ring, right? 1 mile an hour too little, and I'm going 2150 and good night, Prince. So sensational. I wrote in my preview that if Joe wanted to be considered as the greatest shot putter ever, he had to win this Olympics and break the world record. And I have to be honest with you, I don't think I could be any more impressed with him than what I am now for him to come through under those conditions. Astonishing. Ultimate respect for him. Amazing.
It's crazy to think about. We're literally watching the 2 greatest shot putters of all time, and they are, lockstep overlapped across these last 3 Olympics: gold, silver, gold, silver, gold, silver. And you can't diminish how good Joe Kovacs is. It's just that Ryan Crouser cast a shadow even over what Joe Kovacs has done. I have to say, though, I was not expecting that in round 6 after the announcers, who I will not disparage, but they kept saying, oh, his technique looks untidy. And they said it for a lot of guys, but mostly Fabbri and Kovacs. And it was true. I thought he went over the top of one throw, a little bit flat. Fabbri looked like he was just opening up and shifting to his left almost every throw. And to find that 2215 in those conditions, really impressive.
Sensational. And I feel like with the announcers, God bless you, Peacock, for showing every throw. But if I was sitting here and I was about 8 beers in and NBC called me and said, hey, we need someone to announce this soccer game right now. Well, you know nothing about soccer. You got 8 beers in you, but let's do it. I think that's what I would have sounded like. The way those guys sounded. They had no idea what the hell they were talking about. So it was like this background to a magnificent, dramatic competition. And the background was a couple guys just throwing stuff out there.
There's certainly track and field guys, but they are not shot put, or even throws aficionados, unfortunately.
No, and I'm sorry. I had to get that off my chest. Again, thank you, Peacock, for showing every throw. And I guess, ranting about the announcers has become its own kind of part of the event. Its own sport. You can look back on each Olympics and say, yeah, I really, really didn't like the announcers of that one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Amazing though.
The second most impressive thing in round 6 was Payton Otterdahl. He gets in the ring now in 4th place in a wet ring. There's only been 5 marks recorded since round 3. There were 7 fouls in round 4. There were 6 fouls in round 5. And then 4 fouls preceding his throw. He goes 22:03 on his last throw in not very great conditions, and damn near moves into medal contention himself after getting knocked out by Kovacs' throw down to 4th place. Payton, what an incredible performance. I'm hoping he is not hanging his head tonight, because he put it all out there against the best of the best, and damn near hung a medal around his neck.
It's a lot to swallow. We're lucky though, being throws fans right now in this day and age. We're so lucky to have people like these guys who are just great guys, great role models, and incredible competitors. Yeah, we're just lucky. I feel blessed.
17 fouls after it started raining, and 1 pass by Ryan Crouser, who did not need to take his last
and that's
throw.
not a shot put competition. I don't know. I just don't know what to say. But as long as the running people are in charge, I think that's the way that's going to go.
It's just sad, because you would love to see these guys take 6 throws in conditions that favors no one, that doesn't detract from anyone, and just see where the chips lie. They deserve that, when really, besides the crazy people that are probably listening to this podcast, and Dan McQuaid and I are the only ones who are paying attention to all these meets. It's all the eyeballs come and see shot put once every 4 years, or at least more eyeballs than any other competition that we're going to see until we get to LA in 2028. And to have it suppressed, to have the efforts diminished, and have to have athletes hold back, or just not even be able to produce a throw, fall, it's just less than ideal. And I'm kind of brokenhearted about the fact that these guys didn't get to just duke it out on their own merits. The cool thing is we saw the best 2 throwers in world history perform very admirably in not great conditions, and that's why they're the best.
I would compare this kind of thing to Major League Baseball. And if we have listeners in Europe, you have to please just bear with me. But in baseball, they have rain delays, and the umpires are out there in charge of keeping everybody safe. Like, I was at a game. I took my grandson. He really wanted to see Ohtani. So in the spring, I took him to Wrigley Field, and it was the 3rd game of a 3-game series. The Dodgers were not coming back, right? And it started raining, and it wasn't yet an official game. It was probably, I don't know, the 4th inning or something. The last thing in the world they wanted to do was delay that game. They needed to get it done, right? Because the Dodgers needed to get on a plane, get the heck out of there. They weren't coming back, so you couldn't, do a spontaneous doubleheader later in the season. But for the integrity of the sport and for the safety of the players, they paused that game for like 90 minutes or 2 hours or something. And then luckily they resumed it. But to me, that shows the care that they have for the sport, right? They don't want the ball slipping out of someone's hand and somebody getting beamed, slipping out of a pitcher's hand, right? They don't want people falling over running to first base. They don't want the game to become a joke. So even though it's super inconvenient, the umpires are in charge. They make a decision that's in the best interest of those athletes in the sport, and they do it. And I wish we would do that in the sport of throwing.
So our state meet in Wisconsin, WIA, has been held at the University of Wisconsin lacrosse for more than 30 years. And one of the advantages of UW lacrosse is that they have an indoor facility right next to the outdoor track. And I can't tell you how many years. It's almost an ongoing joke that it's going to be blazing hot one day of the WIA state track and field meet, and it's going to rain part or all of one of the days at the state meet.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why they do it at lacrosse is because then they can move the pole vault indoors, because it's not easy to hold onto a pole if the pole is wet and your hands are wet.
Yep.
I've been saying this for years, and I don't really want the shot put to move indoors. But this is the first day of finals being competed in any of the field events at the Olympics. At what point do you see someone fall and say, you know what, we're going to pause, and we're going to see if this rain slows down, we're going to dry out the circle, or we're going to come back and do the last 3 throws the next day? Now, that's not ideal for the throwers either.
Right.
But from a safety standpoint, you can't tell me that Joe Kovacs, Chuck, let's just use Chuck, for example, that Chuck going full speed across an ice rink, basically towards a metal toe board, is, any less safe than someone putting a pole in a pole vault box and leaving the ground a little bit. That is not safe. And it breaks my heart a little bit to see the results probably different if round 4 and round 5 are on dry ground, round 6 as well. But
and nothing against the guys who won. They were warriors.
Absolutely.
Joe, Ryan,
Joe
Campbell.
Kovacs' throw, I mean, his proof positive is like, hey, you can throw out of a wet circle. I'm going to guess that Joe Kovacs would have liked to have thrown farther than 22.15 today, and probably would have done it had it been in a dry circle for 6 rounds. But Payton Otterdahl would say the same, and he's the unlucky guy in 4th place. Leo Fabbri's best throw was in a dry circle in round 1. He just happened to foul it. But you can't say that his competition wasn't changed after it started raining either. So that's enough about the rain. I think as we finish here, Dan, we've spoken so much about Ryan Crouser, but we're witnessing history, and I want to think a little bit about moving forward. Ryan Crouser, I think, has plenty enough in him to say that he wants to win a 4th at the LA Games in the US. Now we're in Al Order territory. I mean, we probably already are in Al Order territory, but what about the rest of this field? Do we see Joe Kovacs moving forward? He's 35 now. That makes him 39 in LA. Tom Walsh, I hope that he can recover, but we've seen dominance from those 3 guys for a while now. And now you're starting to see some young kids. Rajindra is 27. What do you see moving forward, and can you contextualize this Olympics with maybe what we might see in the future?
I think Father Time is going to come for these guys at some point. And they've Ryan and Joe have both defied the aging process in an amazing way, but it's going to happen. I think about Robert Harding, who was the best thrower in the world 2009 through 2014, blew out his knee after the season was over, just doing some maintenance exercise, like playing some kind of game or something in, November of that year. Came back, couldn't quite get back in time to throw in 2015, came back in 2016, throws 66 plus, not long before the Olympics. I'm thinking, okay, if anybody can do it, it's Robert Harding. The night before the qualification at the Rio Olympics, he bends over to turn off the lights, and blammo, his back spazzes. And it was just, time, all the incredible loading that they do on their bodies and the stress. And it's going to happen to Joe and Ryan at some point. I'm not hoping that it happens, but it's just, it's just human biology. So I think that the young guys, and there might even be younger guys out there, right, that by the time LA comes around are ready to go.
Congratulations to Ryan Crouser. Incredible performance. Joe Kovacs, mind-boggling 6th round. Rajindra Campbell, what a performance from him. Not expected. Congratulations, Payton Otterdahl. Great performance. And on down the line. But those are the 4 guys that stand out to me, 1 through 4, that really performed better than the rest of the field today. And it wasn't the start we were expecting in the Olympics, because I thought there might be a little more back and forth fireworks, and I thought more people than just Ryan getting out to a lead in round one and it staying, chalk the rest of the way. But we've got 7 more throwing events here. And I think if the weather's kinder to the rest of these athletes, that we still got a lot of fireworks to look for.
Yeah, fireworks are coming for sure. I
Dan,
say we get together again soon and talk about it.
well, I think we should. Dan McQuaid, what are you doing next? You're just sitting here podcasting, wasting away on a Saturday afternoon. You're bored, going to go back and watch some more Olympics, maybe some Olympic swimming, or
Well,
are you moving on? You making a move?
as you know, I married the right person, and in a moment of weakness, she agreed to marry me 30 years ago, and she's a genius at travel. So in a few minutes, we're going to go to the airport and try to fly standby to Paris. Um, my wife has gotten to know some of the people over the years. Um, she's a huge fan of some of them. She kind of adopted Mika Sosna when we were in Oklahoma, the young German discus thrower. And she's just like, oh, you know what? The flights are pretty open. Seems like a lot of people are avoiding going to Paris, a lot of regular tourists. Let's go. So she wants to go watch Mika. And far be it from me to stand in her way, Coach Frontier. Far be it from me. Chivalry's not dead.
Well, I wish you safe travel, and I can't wait to chat with you. And I'm guessing that you might have some insider scoop, not just outsider scoop, before I get to chat with you again.
Thanks. And again, it's when you fly standby, if any of you have done this, you're rolling the dice. So we're not on the plane for sure until they close the door. But hopefully the next time we talk, it'll be from Paris.
Fantastic. Dan McQuaid, thank you as always.
Pleasure.
If you are listening to the Throw Big Throw Far podcast and you missed any of our previews, go back and listen to the second half of our first preview, because the men's hammer final is coming up, and we preview that exclusively in that first preview. Women's discus, Val Allman did not disappoint in qualifying, one and done, and looked just incredible as predicted. And I can't wait to watch her final. So the hammer, men's hammer, and women's discus finals are coming up next, and we've got all the rest coming deeper into this week. So thanks for listening, everybody.